Hey, Roland. I understand that you're leading the group this week. Thank you for being able to do that. I have bad news. You weren't in church on Sunday, and there was no audio recording, so you cannot download it from the website. There was a mistake made. Can't control those. I can apologize to you. You can see it on Facebook. I think your wife has an account, but last time I checked it wasn't there, so maybe she no longer does. But we have which you could watch the video, fast forward it just to the message part, because this probably more than other times is interrelated to the message as we go through it. I might run through the questions real quick. The very first question, Joshua 3:1-8, is something that needs to be done before the video prep, I guess, that we're going to have. Now, when we're watching this video that's about 18 minutes long, it does take up a lot of the group time. So as a leader, you probably need to curtail the social side of things a little bit more than normal so we can get the video in. And so Joshua does not need to be discussed. People do it, and they have the benefits of what's needed for the video. So I wouldn't necessarily say, let's discuss this before the video. Just sort of run right into it for that. Hebrews 3:7-4:2 is something that's off the video I preached on the spies, and my middle point was about them that caused the wilderness wandering, and it's because the people didn't trust in God. And Hebrews 3:7-4:2 talks about that specifically, involved with the rest that God has for His people. And so the question is, how do we share faith, as it says in verse 2? In that story, according to Hebrews, it says that Joshua and Caleb, I don't think it mentions them specifically, but it references them. They said that we can do it, and the people refused to share their faith. And you hear me talk about that quite often, sharing faith. And so here's a component of the Bible, which is acknowledging that we truly do share one another's faith, and which is kind of cool for a small group because we share faith in the small group with each other. And then it talks about, so the rest is sort of described there. You don't have to go into it too deep. I could get a lot theological, but I'm not going to. And then true or false, God has provided a way for us to enter the rest that the children of Israel failed to enter in Numbers 13 and 14. It's just making sure we tie the context together there. Don't have to read 13 and 14 because I basically talked about it in the service, but and I think it's affirmed in Hebrews there pretty clearly. I don't think that's a hard true or false. How do you discern in your prayer life what you need to ask God to do for you and what you need to do for God? This is some of his statements that he's used on the 40-day prayer journey. And so what's your part? What's God's part? How does people discern that? I think we all probably do that a different way. And so this is just sort of a discussionary issue. If somebody wants to pick it and use that, they like it, I would roll with it. Then on the back, as we look at the last couple questions here, circle a point from this week's message that best describes where you are in your faith journey. So personally, we're circling points. And then we're supposed to underline the point from this week's message that describes where LWC is in our faith journey. And then looking collectively as a church where we are. And I don't know if there's like this one answer it needs to be for everyone. I'm making people think for discussion. And it may be hard for people to circle one or that or the other. So anyways, if people have interest in talking about this, I think it'd be really good discussion because we're talking about our own spiritual journey. We looked at Israel's spiritual journey and compared it to the journey that we probably have, and we all have the different components of deliverance of God, wanderings, and consecration. The overview of life is you're sharing the blessing that Abraham had in Genesis. Anyways, it's a discussionary thing. People say, oh, it's hard to pick one, or hard to circle one, or underline one, or I don't know what to do. And those are all great comments. You know they thought about it. So smile and enjoy it and say, okay, well, what do you think? Let's talk about it a little bit if that comes up. What is your place and time you have made to meet God daily during the 40-day prayer journey? I gave a video last week, which was pretty succinct about that as well. And so I just it's a little bit of a form of accountability. I think we need to have a place and time. And people say, well, I don't have that. I can't. Well, when I say it's a value issue, they just don't care enough to have it. We do have time to do what we want to do. And so we're asking that we make a little extra time in your schedule to pray to God for this 40-day journey of Lent. And Lent is giving something up. If you want to give up something that causes a time waste in your life, here's a great opportunity to use it in that regard. So I think it's easy. I don't know if people want to talk about it or not. Looking out to others, how does a lack of faith affect our mission to make more disciples who make more disciples? Well, in the end, I just want to say, you will never do God's will if you have doubt in God. He will call us to corporately stretch for whatever it is. I'll give you an example. This food pantry is birthed in our hearts. I have no idea how in the world we'll pay for it, how we'll man it. I just feel like it's God's what He wants to do, and He'll answer the questions as we make steps. So Tuesday this week, we go, we look at it, and we learn what the next step is. So anyways, and so it takes faith off. Without faith, it's impossible to please God, but it's also impossible, I feel, to do His will. You will never do God's will in our own strength. It takes faith in God meeting the needs that we can't meet ourselves. Mission project for this semester. Where's your group? Please report this to PD. That's me. So I expect somehow you to communicate back to me what's happening here, what the group collective thought is. We will be discussing this on our Mission Vision Council on Tuesday. We have a meeting, and so I'll have some people there. I'll probably have Terry sort of give a synopsis of where we are a little bit with this. It's a little complicated, and it's complicated for many reasons, which I can't get into all here. But in this month of March, we're going to have to take 2 weeks off to figure out how to do this. One would be administrative, getting letters out, various things. The other one's going to be actually doing the ministry part of it. And so there'll be 2 times the group misses. Now, when you guys are thinking about when those can happen, as a pastor, I would appreciate it if you try to do it other than a Wednesday. In other words, move a different time of the week where you can sort of do the letters and do the deliveries and stuff like that. I can't make you do that. I can only ask. The reason I say that because on Wednesday, I'm still doing the 40-day prayer journey. So those in the group who say, I still want to do the journey, they can have an opportunity from our time of meeting from 7:30 to 8:30 of participating in that. The 40-day prayer journey group that I'm in is not a closed group. They're open. People can come and go as they want. So those that miss the group session because we're doing the mission project can then join in on that. And so that was sort of one of my ideas from the get-go as far as how to handle some of this stuff as you go through. So I hope that makes sense. The private question is kind of neat. Faith is living, so it should be growing, is what I said. If you look back a year from today, how would you rate your spiritual growth? Make a mark where you think you are. And so I think if we look at breadth and perspective in our life, we don't see it in the day-to-day, but if we think, okay, what was I doing last year at this time? And what am I doing now? How has God grown me over the year? And I could just think of, when we went to pray for that Lennon Greens, I think a lot of people grew. They realized, hey, I can do this. This ain't that bad. So anyways, those are the deals right there. Gives you a little insight on what's going on. I think it's really not that hard. I do encourage you to let them pick the questions. At least you can have discussion and you're not forcing the issue. All right. And so who would like and try to keep track of who hasn't picked in a while. Your job as a facilitator is to, which I don't think we have a problem in the group that are there. People talk too much and dominate the conversation. I don't think that's an issue. But you have to be cognizant of looking who's not talking. And you want, as a facilitator, to make everyone in the group at least express something somewhere. And so one of the questions you can say is if you see somebody tired, you beat them on, hey, why don't you answer it? Or let them ask their question and then make them give the first answer. But you can always say, what do you think about this, in that regard and various things. But we want to make sure everyone talks. Now, not everyone will talk the same because we all have different personalities, but everyone should discuss and get in the conversation somehow, some way. So here's the key things. Let other people pick the questions. That way you have people that want to talk about something if they're picking the questions. Number 2, watch your time. The video's hard to get everything in, so curtail the talk front time, get the video started. Melanie will have that, be able to put on the screen. Number 3, this project, we gotta have, if you could, make it a different time other than the Wednesday night time so people can continue on the prayer journey if they want to do that extra in that week. Well, there's my 10 minutes. Thank you so much for listening to me. God bless you.